5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
With that, welcome to your Media Mosh podcast. I'm your host, Shane Beauregard, coming at you with all your news, reviews, and previews. I want to watch on your streaming services, your television, and your local theater. I hope everyone had a great week coming at you Monday night, December the 9th. And it is getting crazier as we head more into December, as we get deeper into December. And I just want to say I am sorry for last week. I really do apologize. You know when you don't really have it, and I felt like last week, my review for The Irishman I felt was fine, but my review for Knives Out was all over the place. I apologize. It was garbage. I don't know what else to call it. I had a little bit of drink, and two things. One, that movie is really hard to talk about without spoiling the movie. And two, the vodka did grab a hold of me within 5 minutes of that reviewing that movie. So I do apologize for a subpar review on Knives Out. But I got a big week for you this week. Didn't actually get to the theater, but I did watch a lot on Netflix that I'll get into. As we get further into December, I will start my Christmas movie reviews. I watched something on Hulu today, which I'll review next week. It was a Christmas horror episode of Into the Dark, which is a Blumhouse produced show on Hulu. But again, I'll get into that next week. There's been a lot of trailers that's come out since the last time I recorded. Some are a little bit older, obviously. Some just dropped within the last 2 days, so let's get right into them. I'll give you my quick thoughts on them. Black Widow trailer with Scarlett Johansson, Florence Pugh, David Harbour, thumbs up for me. It looks fantastic. The only thing I keep hearing about is the skydiving scene. It looks fake and CGI. Listen, folks, everyone is not Tom Cruise. They're not going to do their own stunts. It looks fucking fine. So calm down. And I'm really hoping in this movie they set up where Florence Pugh can take over the Black Widow role in MCU movies down the road. Thumbs up for me. You have the Ryan Reynolds Tiki Watiki film Free Guy, which comes out next year. It looks entertaining, and Ryan Reynolds does not make bad films. He makes entertaining films. But this looks like a live-action Wreck-It Ralph, to an extent. And it looks fun, and it looks fine, and I'll go see it. But it didn't blow me away. It didn't, because it really did remind me of Wreck-It Ralph. And you have to excuse me for my voice this week. My kid had strep over the weekend. My throat's been feeling a little funny since Saturday, so excuse me for my voice tonight. So, thumbs up on Free Guy. The new James Bond trailer came out. Thumbs up for me. It seems like every other James Bond film has been a really good film with Daniel Craig. I grew up in the Roger Moore era of Bond, and I didn't like it. And I'm not a Bond guy. I never became a Bond guy until Daniel Craig. Those movies are kick-ass. So, thumbs up for me on that one. But I would have to say the two really big trailers that came out was the Wonder Woman 1984 and the Ghostbusters Afterlife. First thing first with Wonder Woman, it looks very entertaining. I don't know how Chris Pine came back, but I'm sure Pedro Pascal's character is the one who brought him back into the future, or into present time, sorry. It looks fun, it looks entertaining, it looks really good. So thumbs up for me on that one. And the Ghostbusters one, I'll say this. I like how they did not ignore the 1980s films, and they kind of tied this one back into that one from 30 years ago. I don't know how I feel about the tone of the trailer. And listen, fuck you. Just because it has Paul Rudd doesn't mean it's going to be good. That set aside, it looks okay. I'm on board with it. I'm glad they didn't try to reboot it or rehash it or make you fucking forget about the original movies. I'm guessing we're talking about Harold Ramis's character being the one that left the ghost trap behind and the actual station wagon, the Ecto 1 or whatever it's called. I'm sorry, I'm not totally up on my Ghostbusters shit. But I do have to say this. That station wagon would not start after 30 years being dormant in a fucking barn. Sorry. And the tires would be bald as shit. I know it's a movie, whatever. Strangely enough, I'm actually looking forward to this Ghostbusters Afterlife movie. And that is all the trailers I've seen this week. Let's get into a little bit of what I watched, and I will only say this because these are series I watched a couple episodes on, and I'm not going to give you a main review on it. I am going to touch upon these series, and I think you should watch it. First of all, The Movies That Made Us, Season 1. This comes from the creators of The Toys That Made Us, which is a fantastic series on Netflix. So this one is The Movies That Made Us. It gives you like a 45-minute documentary style into the inner and outer workings of these movies that weren't supposed to do really well and just exploded and became a cultural phenomenon. That's the way I describe it. Because a couple of my clients were like, why'd they choose this movie? I think they chose underdog movies or movies that weren't supposed to perform really well and just took off. So you have 4 episodes: Dirty Dancing, Home Alone, Ghostbusters, and Die Hard. And they're all really, really good. So I would really suggest, especially if you're of my age, I'm 42, to go watch this series. And you will learn these fascinating facts about these movies that you never knew. And they're fun. If you're a movie geek, you will really geek out on The Movies That Made Us. I had a really good time. The other documentary I got sucked into was Iron Fist and Kung Fu Kicks. And this is a documentary style film. It's like an hour and 20 minutes and takes a look at the Hong Kong, Chinese, Japanese martial arts films from the 50s, 60s, 70s and the cultural impact they had going into today. So it covers Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, just the crossover and the influence that it had on American film going. Very interesting. If you grew up like me, I used to watch Kung Fu Theater every fucking Sunday. I love Bruce Lee. He was my first superhero that I gravitated to. Fucking Chuck Norris, all that shit. If you're a fan of Kung Fu, this is a series or a special for you. Right now it's called Iron Fist and Kung Fu Kicks. It's a Netflix original documentary. Go check that out right now. And I've seen 2 episodes of Magic for Humans, which is another Netflix original film. Me and the kids like to watch that one. And yeah, that's a fun, entertaining show. It's pretty good. That is what I've been watching on Netflix. So let's move on to the Golden Globes real quick. The Golden Globes were announced last night. I'm just going to go over the best picture category because generally speaking, I don't care about Golden Globes. But best pictures, The Irishman, Marriage Story, 1917, Joker, and The Two Popes. And surprisingly, 3 of the 5 are Netflix originals. I've seen 3. I've seen Joker, Irishman, and Marriage Story. I will see 1917 on Christmas, and I will see Two Popes because that comes out on Netflix. Just off the top of my head, I would go... I got a feeling it's going to be 1917, but out of the 3 I've seen, I would give a slight nod to Marriage Story about Best Movie, but I'll break that down a little bit further. Next week on Netflix, you have the Ryan Reynolds, Michael Bay collaboration 6 Underground coming out next week, so I'll give you my review on that. And also, hopefully, Uncut Gems. So let's get into what's in the box office. Top 5. Coming in at number 5. You Have a Wonderful Day in the Neighborhood, bringing in $5.2 million, which brings his 3-week total to $43 million. Coming in at number 4, you have Queen and Slim, bringing in $6.53 million, which brings his 2-week total to $26 million. Number 3, Ford versus Ferrari, bringing in $6.57 million, bringing his 3-week total to $91 million. Number 2, Knives Out, bringing in $14 million, bringing his 2-week total to $63 million. And number 1, again for 3 weeks in a row, you have Frozen 2, bringing in $34.6 million, bringing its 3-week total to $337 million, which brings Disney making over $10 billion at the box office this year. $10 billion with a B dollars. So way to go, fucking Disney. And in case you were wondering, Charlie's Angels came in 23rd at the box office this week, bringing in $216,000, which brings his 4-week total to $17.5 million. Now, coming out at the box office next week is a big week. You have Jumanji and Black Christmas coming out Wednesday, December the 11th. And then on Friday, Friday the 13th, you have Richard Jewell, which, listen, folks, if you've seen the lead actor on Richard Jewell who plays Richard Jewell, I don't know his name, but I do know he played a juggalo on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia on the episode where Charlie was a janitor in the high school and Dee taught the acting class. That kid right there who's the juggalo is now a pretty fucking good actor because he was also in the Margot Robbie movie. Oh, the Tonya Harding movie. Sorry. He was also in the Tonya Harding movie. So he's been making his way up in the acting field. And it's funny that he started out on fucking It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Little sidebar there. But if you're a fan of It's Always Sunny, then you'll get that reference. And you'll know who I'm talking about. You also have Adam Sandler's Uncut Gems and Charlize Theron, Margot Robbie, and Nicole Kidman's Bombshell coming out next week. So it's a big weekend in the movie theater. And then you have Star Wars coming out the week after, which I'll touch upon that. So let's get into what I watched for the week. The first show I'll talk about is the Hulu original Reprisal, which is sitting at a 33% critic score with a 96% audience score. And a huge discrepancy, as you can see. Now, I'll be honest with you. This is one of the few shows I can talk about where I couldn't tell if I liked it until I got 6 episodes in. And even then I had question marks. But for some reason the show kept me going episode after episode. And I don't know if that's happened to you guys. This is a weird show. I'm going to be just honest with you. It stars Abigail Spencer, who I really like, who was in the show Rectify, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. It was a Sundance original film. She was in that. And she was she was in the NBC show Timeless. You'll recognize her, though. It also has W. Earl Brown, Rory Cochrane, who is wildly miscasted in this show, and I'll get back to that later. You have Minya Masad, who played Aladdin in the Aladdin movie. And you also have Ron Perlman. So it's a wonderful cast. And the setup is you have gangs that have these certain territories locked down. And Rory Cochrane, who plays Bert, who is in charge of the Brawlers, he puts this thing in play. And his sister, played by Abigail Spencer, Doris, shows up. And he ends up putting a chain around her neck and dragging her behind his truck, and they leave her for dead, but she does not die. So the show picks up years later where she's remarried and running this restaurant business, and her husband dies and she gets willed this restaurant, but the whole time she's been plotting revenge on the people who had her supposedly killed. So this is a straight revenge show. And it's wildly stylish. It reminds me of a Tony Scott / Tarantino / Frank Miller project, but it falls short in certain areas. This season is 10 episodes, and it's very colorful. It's very stylish. It's well written in certain parts. Certain characters have more to do with others. So you have Doris, again played by Abigail Spencer, who plants a inside man into the Brawlers. It's called the Brawlers family. The Brawlers employ 3 people called the Three River Phoenixes, which I thought was pretty cool. They're like the middlemen of all the gangs. They hand out the cash, they drop off supplies, so they're like errand boys. So she plants this kid to get the in and outs of the gang, the Brawlers and the Three River Phoenixes. The problem I had with this fucking show is that it suffered from being 10 episodes. It should have been 8. And it should have been 45 minutes per episode instead of an hour. I thought it was wonderfully acted. I thought, again, getting back to the Rory Cochrane bit as Bert, as the leader of the Brawlers, miscast. Because if you remember him from Empire Records, and I know he's been in a lot of stuff since then, but he is not a tough guy. He does not come across as a tough guy, as a leader of a fucking gang at all. So I thought he was wildly miscast. I will honestly say I broke my 3-episode rule. because if I based this on the 3 episodes, I would have shut it off and not watched it again. But because of Abigail Spencer, I kept watching the show, and it finally picked up after episode 6. Okay? So you have to stick with this for a while because it just is long-winded. It's a weird mix-up of genres because I couldn't tell what year this was set in. They're still using payphones. You got a biker gang, a greaser car, soda pop gang, but it doesn't feel like it's in the 50s or 60s or even 80s. So I don't know what time frame this show takes place in. But for me, the character development was there. You got a lot of good storylines going on, even though there were some episodes that felt wasted. You have a good world this series built in, and I hope there's a season 2 because the way season 1 ended, it's a cliffhanger. So gosh, please let there be season 2. The Ron Perlman storyline is really slow to take off, but I like the world it's built. It tries to be a little too slick though. Some of the storylines fall flat, and it's a little slow paced, and it takes a while for the characters to develop. But for me, once they did, it came through. So if you can make it through 3 episodes, there are some plot holes in this show, but please stick with it. I can't compare this to any other show because it's not like any other show. So, but I go higher than the 33% critic score. I go 2.75 out of 5 for me on Reprisal. Now, the last thing I'll review is A Marriage Story, which is sitting at 96% of Rotten Tomato. Now, this is fresh because I just finished watching this thing. Directed by Noah Baumbach, I think I'm pronouncing that right, who just recently did The Merowitz Stories, which is another Netflix original movie. He did Greenberg, he did The Squid and the Whale, he actually did the screenplay for Kickin' and Screamin', and also Madagascar 3, bet you didn't know that, starring obviously Adam Driver, Scarlett Johansson, Laura Dern, Alan Alda, Ray Liotta, and Julia Haggerty from Airplane fame. Initial thought on this film, it was one of the best acting films I've seen all year. I was really shocked, one, by Adam Driver, because I've never really been a big fan of Adam Driver. My first really taste of him was in the Star Wars franchise, and then I saw him in Logan Lucky, and I was like, that dude can act. In this one, he brings it full game. He was just so good. Scarlett Johansson was great, but I was impressed by Alan Alda, probably the most for some reason, and he's only in 2 or 3 scenes, but for some reason he really impressed by him. Ray Liotta, who I didn't even know was in the movie, and Laura Dern were great. So I'll say the best thing this movie has going for it is the acting all around. As a movie, I'll say this, and these are my incoherent thoughts on this movie. It's a good movie. It's well written, it's funny, it's witty, it's grounded. It's the most realistic divorce movie you could probably ever see. I felt everything these characters are going through. But it's a movie you only need to see one time. It's depressing in most parts. It's upsetting in a lot of parts. And whether or not the director had this in mind, but you do gravitate to one side or the other. And I gravitated to the Adam Driver side. I did. Call me an asshole, but I did. And they give you the divorce from both sides of the table and the impact and the fallout it has in the family and the kid involved in this situation. So it's very heartfelt and it's very realistic. It's very grounded. I felt I was right there with him in this film. So I really enjoyed that aspect. The way it was shot, you were with these characters. But I like the character development in this movie because, again, I picked one side and I actually came around. And through the development of one character specifically, I was like, okay, that works for me. And I know I just jumbled that up, but well acted all the way around. Good character film. And just, all I can say is it's realistic. But it's nothing I need to revisit or nothing I'll probably watch again. But I do agree with all the praise this movie's getting. Kudos for fucking Adam Driver, because I did not know he had this in him. He's probably going to get nominated for Best Actor. And yeah, so it's just go check this out. I agree with the critics on this one. I would give it a 4.5 out of 5. There wasn't much flawed with this movie. And that's all I got, folks. Next week, hopefully I'll have my Uncut Gems review for you, but I will have my Underground 6 review. I'll get more into the Christmas spirit. That's it, folks. That's all I have. Go check me out on Twitter at Shane Media Mosh. Go check me out on Facebook page, Media Mosh. More importantly, go to the Apple Podcast Store, download me, review me, share me with your friends, folks. And as you know, every week, go check out Mr. Arguing Myself on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. 3 different types of platform for 3 different types of content. Until then, folks, have a fucking great week. Get caught up in the mosh.